What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the corner. I'm always today. Yeah, I'm gonna make another video about Concord because uh this individual, Sungrad Studios, sorry, um, has probably just dropped the single most inspirational fucking speech I've heard in a very long time. And it's all about Concord. Now, if you somehow didn't know, Concord is a really shitty game that just got shut down, and pretty much everyone celebrated. So I've already seen this video, but I wanted to go through it again in a video, go over what he's talking about, and just kind of remind people about what some of the Concord developers, or at least what one of the Concord developers have said, and where they're at right now. So let's go ahead and go.
September the 3rd. Where were you on September the 3rd?
I was right here.
Where were you when you first heard the news? Concord has fallen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed with our very own eyes the most important event in the video game industry in decades.
Now, when I first was listening to this and I heard that, I got real skeptical about where he was going with this. I'm like, the most important? I don't know about that, but it gets better.
Today, September the 3rd, Sony has announced that its latest title, Concord, will be discontinued and servers will be shut down September the 6th. Mainstream media outlets defending Concord have destroyed their credibility and revealed a glaring flaw in the game industry.
I just want to say, if you think that mainstream media, for like video games and whatnot, like mainstream video game journalists and whatnot, like IGN, have any kind of credibility, if you think they are credible with what they say and do, that's wild. That is wild. I haven't trusted a mainstream video game journalist or mainstream anything really in probably over a decade, because they're just they don't give honest reviews. I mean, just look at IGN. They gave everything a 7 out of 10, including Concord.
How can you trust a company who tells you the sky is not blue? We can no longer trust those major companies. The fall of Concord is not cause for celebration. We cannot afford to devolve into a culture that dances on the graves of those who tried and failed. But there is cause for celebration. To all my fellow gamers out there who let your voices be heard in comment sections and forums, I am proud of you. I beseech you, revel not in the failure of others. The road to a better tomorrow cannot be traveled by tearing each other down, but by helping each other up when we stumble.
Yes.
To the content creators out there who made strong the voice of your people, your fellow gamers, I am proud of you. To those with true journalistic integrity who researched and brought to light the unacceptable, grotesque behavior of those who would masquerade as our game developers, I am proud of you. Sony has become a tyrant, a dragon of wealth at all costs. All the gamers out there who stood their ground and let their voices be heard, who united from all around the world, they became a powerful spear. All the content creators out there who brought to light the truth of the situation as it unfolded day to day, they became the blade of the spear that pierced the dragon's heart. There is a philosophy that exists in the professional world, something I've learned working in industry, from watching, from listening to the world around me. People love nothing more than watching a tyrant fall. For years, talented, skilled, and deserving artists and developers have been discriminated against. Instead of game companies hiring people for their ability or qualifications, they hire based on the color of someone's skin. their sexual identity, and their political views. For years, the video game industry has bent further and further toward appeasing an extremist radicalized cult raised entirely in an isolated bubble of hyperreality on the internet.
I love this guy. I love the way he presents everything. Because he isn't he doesn't seem afraid to just say what is on his mind, right? He does it in a very cultured manner, far removed from how I do it, where I just say whatever's on my mind and don't really care what other people think. But that's not a bad thing with how he's doing it. Um, this is something that I've seen time and time again. It's why I've stopped following a lot of people. Um, they they know what is happening is wrong, and they know that they should speak out, but then they don't, right? Whereas he is not only speaking out, but he's making sure that people remember not only why September 3rd was so important, but more importantly than that, he's making sure that you understand that the reason why there is cause for celebration, the reason why you should be celebrating, is not because of Concord's fall, but rather the united front that we as gamers put on to, I guess, better. Trying to think of the right words to say. Uh, the united front that gamers put on to better. I don't even really know how to really describe it. It's basically he wants you to remember that it's the united front that we put on. That is what should be celebrated, not the fall of Concord, right? And furthermore, he's trying to make sure that people understand what is actually going on inside the industry, and so that way, it not only it's not necessarily that it justifies uh, the outrage that people have had, um, but it brings to light the practices and the reasons why these big game companies are putting out these wild games and statements that no one wants. So the best example I can give right now is Concord versus Black Myth Wukong. Okay. Um, Black Myth Wukong is made by a group by developers who told Sweet Baby Inc. to go fuck themselves. Whereas Concord was put out by developers who are under the heel of Sony and their DEI initiatives and their forced DEI initiatives, more specifically. And because of these forced DEI initiatives, the character designs were absolutely fucking atrocious, and the gameplay suffered because the developers weren't actually able to create something that is good, right? They had to create something that filled an agenda.
The game industry has bent further and further, being infested by people who do not care about making a good product, who do not understand what a good game is, and who do not care about what really matters. The gamers. Diversity, inclusivity, equity. I've said it before and I will say it again. Those things matter. They're important. But the people who are pushing those concepts into the public space lack the maturity, self-awareness, and understanding of social responsibility to do it correctly.
I love this dude.
These radicalized extremists are so focused on their own egos, they do not realize the damage they have caused to our culture. Never before in the past decades has there been a greater hatred, fear, and resentment towards minority groups which they think they are empowering.
Yeah.
Instead, they are framing marginalized groups as villains and painting targets on their backs. And this has happened because of the incompetent implementation of supposed diversity in media. We cannot afford to go back to a time when hatred and fear was allowed to rule our hearts and minds.
So I just want to pause here and talk about this real quick. So he talked about how let me just go back
As
real quick.
villains and painting targets on their backs. And this has
Yeah.
happened
So
because of the incompetent implementation of supposed diversity.
so right here, the incompetence he's talking about that he's referring to isn't Concord, okay? At least not in whole. The incompetence that he's talking about are games like Suicide Squad, games like Concord. These games, which all of their budget went to ensuring that the game had a diverse, inclusive cast that represented everyone, right? So I showed this in my last video, but the characters in Concord are bad, design wise. And the reason why is because gamers do not want a character that they resonate with on a personal level. Gamers want a character that they can resonate with on a cool level. Okay. So I was talking about this with one of my roommates the other day. And uh, one thing you can think about is if you go back about 20, 25 years or so when Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, when Warcraft was coming out, Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. And if you go back and you look at the trailers for those, and even the trailers for World of Warcraft, you will notice that the driving selling point for those trailers was that it was about a bunch of big, strong, heroic dudes beating up on each other, right? A big, one way that it's been put, one way that Asmongold put it, is that it's a bunch of big, sweaty dudes beating up a bunch of other big, sweaty dudes, right? And it's cool. It looks awesome, right? But then you go and you look at the most recent trailers for like Dragonflight, for example, and it's got this very, uh, for lack of a better word and whatnot, it's got this very like flowery feeling to it, right? This very girly, feminine feel to them. And it doesn't have that cool factor, that factor of just like this is fucking awesome, right? It doesn't have that anymore. You go and you look at Diablo 4's trailer. Diablo 4's trailer was really good. But then you go and again, you look at like Dragonflight and uh I forget what the fucking expansion after or before Dragonflight was, Battle for Azeroth. You look at the trailer for Battle of Azeroth, compare it to Dragonflight. Battle of Azeroth is fucking awesome with that initial fucking trailer, with the siege of I think it was Lordaeron, um Anduin standing at the helm, leading the alliance. Sylvanas leading the horde. I remember very clearly the scene where she jumps onto the siege tower. She fires an arrow down. She causes it to explode. She turns into her banshee form, floats down, starts to like. I think she kills a whole bunch of like alliance people with her like fucking death magic or whatever, and she like she's pulling up her hands. It's like slow, very like strength like strength looking like sort of rise up, right? And she screams for the horde, and then everything goes silent for just a moment, and it cuts to I don't remember what the orc's name is, but it cuts to one of the orcs, and he looks at it like kind of shocked, like, oh my god, like he's kind of taken aback by the verboseness, that Sylvanas screamed this out. And he grabs the Horde flag, lets out a war cry, and all the Horde go charging in, right? It's very Horde, right? Like the whole scene is very much Horde. And then you have that contrasted by Anduin, who is not a warrior, right? He's a cleric. And he looks around at all of his fallen and he looks at the sword, and the sword is not who he is, right? He's not a warrior. He is a cleric. So he drops the sword, raises his hand, and embraces that, right? And the look of just elation, not joy, but elation and empowerment on Anduin's face when he heals and revives his fallen comrades. That is very Alliance, right? It's the essence of what it means to be Alliance versus the essence of what it means to be the Horde, right? And that kind of back and forth, that clash is fucking awesome. And then you go to fucking Dragonflight and you lose all of that epicness, that grandioseness, right? And it's very just terrible, right? It's fucking awful, right? And so that's what he's talking about. Is that right there is just the transition from having these cool, awesome cinematics into this very shitty forced diversity into all of your video games, forcing just inclusivity into all the character designs and the gameplay. That is what he's talking about.
In media, we cannot afford to go back to a time when hatred and fear was allowed to rule our hearts and minds. No more. To you radicalized extremists, receiving millions of dollars to produce products for stroking your own egos instead of serving the gamers, I say to you, no more. To you tyrants who fund this radicalized movement, who focus on pandering instead of creating something of value, I say to you, no more. To you developers who would dare to call my fellow gamers, my people, talentless freaks, I say to you, no more.
Yeah, that right there, I'm gonna pause again. That right there is fucking wild when I heard about this. So, uh, for those who don't know, um, Sid Alpha made this post, right? Talking about this, and looking at this, right? Just awful metrics, right? But if you scroll down a little bit, you'll come across this comment, which reads, "Combine that with a dev team who doesn't care if talentless freaks don't like their game." And what he's talking about here is this free gunner guy who was a developer. He's no longer a developer. He has apparently since been fired, from what I can see. Um, and he said in it, where is it? Oh, right here. So down here, because he was talking about this being his first AAA game and everything, and he's like, "I'm sorry this had to be your first. I do not believe it is you or any of the other devs' fault that this game came out or that this game performed so poorly. I can tell a lot of effort was put into completing this game. It just came at the wrong time and genre." Here's the thing, not really, but so you apparently can't see it anymore. But there was. Hang on, I'm gonna find the screen. I thought this had the screenshot. Hang on. Oh, I'm stupid. It was in the first one. I just didn't fucking hit over. So down here, he says, that he's sorry that it had to be first, and then this guy hits back with, "Ed, really don't care. It's a huge labor from a lot of insanely talented people," which they probably are really, really fucking talented, right? It's not an awesome game though. But he goes on to say, "Why would I care about a bunch of talentless freaks hating on it? I'm sure having fun playing it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything." Now, of course, Eh, hmm. When I wish I had screenshotted this myself, because I went when I first saw this, I went to find the tweet and I could find it. But down here you'll see that this post was deleted by the post author, and of course, if you now go to uh, their to his or her or what the fuck ever, I don't honestly give a shit. Um, if you go to their Twitter, you'll see that they're private, so you can't see anything. And this is very standard, very typical of people who try and shove this DI bullshit. And then when they get called out for being hypocrites or whatever, they put their shit on lockdown. This happens with pretty much every person that works at Sweet Baby Inc. Or who has worked, is they do exactly this when they're called out. So yeah, uh, but they've now deleted it. They've gone into hiding after calling the people who were literally the ones that were gonna make or break their career. They called them talentless freaks. And so yeah.
Rejoice. Celebrate, my fellow gamers, for today you have made history. Today, we tear down a tyrant. Let this be a warning to all the AAA development studios and publishers out there. The balance of power has shifted.
Oh,
There is no amount of money you can pour into marketing to hide the flaws of a product created by the wrong people with the wrong intentions. The balance of power has shifted in a way that you cannot control. Your audience has a voice. They have power, and they are your equals. September the
oh,
3rd.
oh, we're not equals. We're not equals. No, 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 no. That's giving Sony way too much credit. That's giving big AAA companies way too much credit. No, see, here's the thing. Gamers are the ones with all the power. Realistically, like if you actually stop and think about it, gamers are the ones with the power. Okay? And the reason why is because gamers make or break games. Um, if gamers decide that a game is bad and they all like en masse refuse to buy a game, refuse to support the developers, those developers will sink. Full stop. There is nothing they can do. Nothing. The only thing that developers have is the capability of making a product. It is the gamers who decide whether or not that product is good. It is the gamers who decide whether or not that studio lives. That's it.
Remember this. Let it be heard. All across the world, today is the day we took back the video game industry. To any developers or publishers out there who would dare to call my fellow gamers, my people, talentless freaks, do this at your own peril, because I will not stand idly by and let you demean my people. Lastly, to Sony, you have earned some respect by issuing full refunds to all the paying customers of Concord. This is the best course of action you could have taken.
Yeah.
Were I to give you a review on your performance in this situation, I would say 7 out of 10. Good.
That's the best part. That right there is the best part of this video. Is the review he gives Sony. 7 out of 10. Admittedly, that's a little too generous for my taste. I'd give them a 0 out of 10. But, so Sony is in trouble. Sony is in massive trouble. They might be a very big AAA developer, with a lot of money, but the issue with Sony is this is all happening realistically hot off the heels of the Helldivers 2 situation. Um, and for those who maybe forgot, Helldivers 2 is still blocked in over 150 countries. Um, all because Sony decided that they wanted to require linking it to uh, a PlayStation account in order to play Helldivers 2 on PC. I don't know why they decided to do that. It is, even trying to look at it from a game developer's perspective, there is no logical reason to force PC players to link their game account to your proprietary software. There is no logical reason. There are reasons, but none of them are logical. None of them at all. Um, yeah. So coming off of the Helldivers 2, which is still banned, and then this, right? Sony's next project, whatever it is, I pray that they step back from forced DEI. I would prefer them to return to how it was when God of War originally released. When the original Spider-Man was released. I'm not talking about the PS4 Spider-Man, mind you. I'm talking about the Spider-Man from back in the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 days. I want a return to form. That's what I want. And I want whatever the fuck this shit is to burn and never make itself known again. So, anyways, that's my thoughts. That's my take. Thank you all for coming to my corner. I've been the DM as always. If you liked the video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. If you didn't like the video, hit dislike button, leave a comment, let me know why. And I will see you all later.